Today our group is gonna talk about interpersonal relationship with different people in U.S. university. First, let's think about how to get inside of American classroom. I want to talk about it in three perspectives. First, how to properly email professors. Second, how to work with others as a group member. Third, how to work with others as a group leader. Email is the most common way for college students to communicate with professors. A good email will make students solve his or her problem efficiently, but email with bad etiquette sometimes make a professor want to kick the students out of the classroom. So here's the advice. Address your professor. Use the word dear, professor, and doctor. Email is pretty formal. You can't use the way of texting friends on the phone to write an email to your professor. Second, you have to be asked nicely. Use the sentences such as, would you like? Or could you please? These sentences will make a professor think you are pretty, polite or has good manner, so professor will more likely to help you. Third, the email should be succinct and specific. When asking a problem, you have to provide enough information to let the professor know what is going on. And don't put too much unrelated information to make this confusion to confuse the professors. Last, revise the email. Nobody wants to see an email filled with, grammar or spelling mistakes. So double check the email. Make sure there's no grammar or spelling mistakes. Our second perspective, how to be a good group member. Some international students are not familiar to group works, so they would not like to be active in a group to express their opinions while develop a project. This is of course not good at all for students because the ability to get involved into groups to work together is really important in future career. So here's the advice too, again. First, you have to be active to talk to others. Talking is the most direct way to know each other and express one's idea. If students refuse to communicate to others, others may not like to work with the students and she or he would be isolated. Secondly, take responsibility to each of the assignments. The problem of group members are not equally contributed to the group project happens many times. Not all the members would like to make contribution to the group. So the students would not like to do the work. Others has to do more work to make sure the project goes well. It definitely gonna make those people unhappy. Third perspective, how to be a good group leader. Similar to the how to be a good group member, group leader should assign the work to the group member equally. Also, group leader have to be prepared for everything, because it is group leader's responsibility to set a meeting, to set a time schedule, to carry the team. So this group leader has to be prepared for the incoming problem encountered during every single project. Third, actively contact your members. Group leaders should act as a reminder to remind their group members to make sure the project goes well.
Talking about the interpersonal relationship in university for us international students, one of the important part is the relationship with roommates in college dormitory, and I want to talk about this topic from three aspects. If you have American roommates, do you feel nervous before meeting them and don't know how to get along with them? The first main topic I want to introduce is how to get along well with American roommates. There are plenty difficulties for us international students to have a relationship with Americans at first. The culture shocks will definitely be a big problem, and the UIUC 2015's mentioned that nearly all international students go through a period of adjustment. Like our Asian people are more introvert and implicit in communication and emotion express, but Americans are usually very directly. Many Chinese students share similar experience like me that once my RA brought some cookies and asked me if I would like to try one. I wanted to actually, but I was too shy to say yes, and she just took away. Or Chinese people prefer hot food and hot water, but Americans tend to eat cold food, and so on. I know it is hard to adjust, but we need to try our best to understand the cultural difference and get used to it as soon as possible. Besides, the language barrier is also a big problem when get along with Americans. Even we have already studied and practiced English for many years before we came to America. It is different to live in an environment of whole English communication. Sometimes when we try to talk about something, we may find it hard to express our ideas correctly and we will feel embarrassed and frustrated. However, that's also why we should communicate with each other positively and frequently. If you have American roommates in the first year, it is absolutely a good chance to improve your English speaking. From another aspect, the difficulties we met can actually be the advantages because culture difference can also become interesting topic during communication. Introducing some special costumes or food is a good way to help people get to know each other. Moreover, finding common hobbies is also effective to build a relationship. For example, if you are good at some instruments or you are interested in certain computer games, then it becomes much easier to find topics with others. Secondly, getting along well with the roommates from same countries is also an important part. It is often easier to build a friendship with people from your home country because of the mother language and similar background. So, to have a healthier relationship, you should help each other, especially at the beginning of your American life. Like they discussed in NCU 2015, Adjust to College, that the transition from high school to university can be hard for freshmen, especially our international students. So we should encourage each other when we meet challenges sometimes. Also, something we should pay attention to is becoming too intimate with your roommates from home country, because that may avoid you adjust to culture transition and also improve in your English. The last thing I want to discuss is how to deal with conflict. One important step before start your relationship with your roommates is to make an agreement. Everyone living in a same room should consult with each other about certain rules and then come to an agreement. Take my friends as an example who share a room with two Americans. I used to ask them how does it feel to share a room with Americans because there would definitely some difference in cultures. To my surprise, they said it is not so hard as they imagined before because due to the difference in lifestyle, they negotiated with some rules like the late time to sleep, no guest overnight, or assignments for cloning, and so on, so they avoid many conflicts before living together. Besides, once the conflicts happened, first thing we should do is to speak out the problems rather than hiding our thoughts. Even Asian people are usually shy to show their own feelings. Communications is the most important thing during a relationship. After finding out the problems, we should solve them with a positive attitude. It is true that both us international students and American roommates should make some compromise to deal with conflicts, which is also a skill of building a relationship.
Hello everyone, today I want to talk about how to deal with homesickness in college, and I will emphasize on two topics: why international students get homesickness in college, how to treat homesickness. Many international college students may face homesickness when they go abroad. Personality and environmental factors, for example, cognitive failure and decisional control over the mood, are associated with reports of homesickness. Geographical movement, and the relative lack of satisfaction about features of physical and psychological environment in the new places are also found to be associated with reports of homesickness. There are many reasons to cause homesickness. In order to solve the problems, we need to know why people get homesickness after they go to different places. For the first, homesickness could be caused by some physical reasons. For example, long-distance movement makes students feel exhausted. As a result, students may get somewhat disappointed about future. Furthermore, students cannot see family members face to face after they go abroad. Leaving family members behind implicates some greater changes in students' habits and ways of living, which makes students cannot adapt to new environment easily. Secondly, some mental stress could also cause homesickness. For example, different cultural background makes barrier to prevent students from negotiating with local people easily. Lacking ability to cope with new environment may create social disorganization and even result in mental illness. Students need to build new relationships in new circumstances. As a result, may get homesickness for several weeks. In order to solve the problem caused by homesickness, many physical and psychological methods are required. Treatments for homesickness include teaching students on valuable ways to cope, and organizing students in new circumstances in efficient ways, which strengthen their commitment to it, and putting efforts on creating new relationships, helping students to possess perspectives of duration about separation with family members. After the difficult time in the beginning of new life, students will forget about homesickness step by step. Here comes some ways to help students to treat homesickness. First, some mental methods can help students to get better when they study abroad individually. Stay positive is very significant. Try to forget about homesickness by not thinking about family members and home, thinking about other things instead of missing family members could enable students to see positive sides of things. Thinking that time is really short could make students have no time to consider themselves lonely. Secondly, joining some event with other people could also help students feel better. Students may go to see people who can talk with them to help them get relaxed. And making new friends in new environment can help students to build up relationship with different people. And that's also a way to help students adapt to new environment. Students may do something interesting, for example, participate in activities or play with new friends to forget about homesickness. In conclusion, there are many different reasons to homesickness, and what we should do is always stay optimistic.
For this part, I will talking about interpersonal relationship with different people, especially with Americans. There are three aspects. Number one, does having a different culture affect the friendship between international students and Americans? Number two, how to secure friendship with Americans? And number three, how do Americans feel about having people from other countries as friends? Now moving to number one. Does having a different culture affects the friendship between international students and Americans? According to Kim Zimmerman 2015 of Life Science, the United States is a melting pot of culture in which each of the many races and ethnic groups have contributed their own flavors to American culture, even though the US is obviously not the only multi-ethnic nation. American culture is unlike any other culture anywhere in the world. Some may find the locals to be over-friendly, but very individualistic at the same time. Solomon Serena 2016. This may cause foreign students to experience culture shock, which in turn may make it difficult for us to make friends with the locals. Moving to the number 2, how to secure the friendship with Americans. According to Julie Mayfield 2013, states that one of the best way to make friends with the local is to spend time with them so that you understand their culture better. You can do this by taking part in out of class activities such as hobby clubs and sports teams. Through this, you can meet other people with the same interests as you. In this kind of setting, friendships tend to form more naturally without feeling forced. You can also take part in classes that have a strong social aspect to them and encourage interaction between students. You will then get the chance to introduce yourself to your American classmates and get to work together on group projects. Once you are good friends with locals, there is a good chance that he or she will in turn introduce you to their friends. You can build your network of friends from there on. Moving to the final aspect, how do Americans feel about having people from other countries as friends? America is one of the most multicultural countries in the entire world. Most Americans, especially the younger generation, are very tolerant about people from other countries, so they don't mind being friends with foreign students as long as we respect their beliefs and cultures. This is due to the fact that America is itself is a country built upon immigration. Most Americans are the descendants of immigrants from all over the world, from Eastern Europe to West Africa. Hence, foreigners will always be welcomed with open arms. According to Daniel Lunsford, 2016, in his Quora entry on "Why are Americans so tolerant of foreigners coming and working in the US?" Americans are so tolerant of foreigners because acting otherwise could be just un-American. With Karuna 2012 states that, in short, the easiest way to befriend an American is to think, act, and feel like one. And for the conclusions, this presentation talks about interpersonal relationships encountered by students. It specifically talks about interpersonal relationship with professors and classmates, with families, with roommates, and with friends. The presentation detail answer research question and provide advice and reveal the reasons behind the advice. So that's all from our topic. Thank you.